Educational content in a novel about nursing? Well, that's what author Amy Glenn Vega has assembled with her Nursing Novellas series. As she says on her site, Amy Glenn Vega is not a nurse, nor does she play one on TV. However, she has closely worked with nurses for nearly 20 years in her career as a healthcare educator and medic. She brings her unique brand of humor and storytelling to her books while incorporating important concepts of patient care and nursing care into the stories. I got a chance to sit down with Amy recently, and here's my Skype interview with Amy Glenn Vega. Amy, I want to welcome you to the Nursing Show, and this is really a first for me. I've never actually interviewed an author who wrote nursing novels before, so welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So just out of curiosity, tell me a little bit about your background and share that with the audience, because I know a little bit just from reading stuff on your website, but you have some healthcare background. Even though you're not a nurse writing about nurses, you have a strong background in healthcare.
Okay. Yeah, I started off in the healthcare world as an EMT, so I, worked with a lot of nurses, mostly emergency nurses in that role, and then I went into an educator role full time, and I've been on the education side of things for close to 20 years now. But in my time in healthcare education, all of my managers, supervisors, my mentors, all of my close friends have been nurses. And my last boss used to joke around with me all the time that they had adopted me and made me an honorary nurse. But it was kind of fitting because, through working with them, they really taught me to speak the nursing language, and they taught me a lot about the nursing culture, and they taught me how to think like a nurse and kind of see the world through nursing eyes. So that's where, a lot in nursing is, even though I'm not a nurse. And when I was starting to think about the Nursing Novella series, I was actually working as the continuing education director at that time, developing educational programs and trying to get content out to nurses. And when the economy was really starting to hit us hard, we were hearing from all of the nurses in our region that they were not able to leave work and go to conferences and programs like they used to be able to, and budgets were cut. And so the big challenge for us was getting educational content out to everyone in a way that was sensitive to budgets and sensitive to time. And so we had to really be creative. We put a lot of stuff online. We, started doing some podcasting stuff like what you're doing. And then I had the crazy idea. I love to write. I've always loved writing fiction. And I thought, let me write some fiction novels and let's throw some educational content in it and make continuing education programs that way. And it seemed to work really well.
That's such a great idea, and really an interesting approach to bringing education through entertainment material. I have a good friend of mine on the EMS side of things, Bob Page, who calls what he does edutainment. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, when I go to one of his classes, I never laugh as much as I laugh in one of his classes. It's just amazing how he turns mundane, dry content into something you can chuckle about, something you can become actively involved with the stories he's telling, and learn something along the way. And you're doing the exact same thing with these novels. And I know your site's called nursingnovellas.com, but you and I talked before we started recording that it's really novel-length material. It's full-length novels about nurses.
Yeah, and the name Nursing Novellas is a little bit tricky. Novella is a short novel, and we kind of wanted people to have the idea that these would just be short, quick reads that wouldn't be a huge commitment of time. And we went into it kind of thinking that maybe we would start off with a novel and edit it down to a novella, but they are novel length. But the neat thing about it is, just like any other novel you would read, you can pick one up, read a few minutes here or there, put it down, come back to it again later. So you read at your own pace, and make it work for you, however you need to chop that
right,
content up.
Right.
And
the reviews seem to be just stellar. It's one of the top nursing related fiction material items on Amazon. It's well received every time I've read some of the reviews. Really well done. And it's all set in a fictional hospital setting. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, the fictional hospital setting, it's in the city of Dogwood, North Carolina, which is fictional. Dogwood, named it after the dogwood state. That's our state flower. But it's just kind of an anywheresville, USA. and it's just a typical med-surg unit, and all of the nurses on that unit, it's the same group of nurses from book to book, so you kind of follow them along as a series and see how they grow and change as people and as nurses. But the five main characters, they actually represent the five competency levels based on Dr. Patricia Benner's novice to expert model,
Okay.
so that anybody who picks it up and reads it can sort of zero in on a nurse that represents their expertise level, and they can sort of follow that character along and relate to that person's experiences.
Great. And I like that you carry the characters through the novels, and that they each bring different problems to the table. What are some of the things that they address in the course of their work lives?
The first one, this is what kicked off the whole series, was all about lateral violence. And, I told you a little bit before about how I'm sort of the honorary nurse, sort of the beloved outsider to the whole nursing world. But because I've, associated so closely with nurses all throughout my career, I have a heart for nurses and the nursing profession. And when I hear about problems and issues in the nursing world, I really take it personally. And I had gone to a nursing professional development convention. The keynote speaker was Dr. Martha Griffin from Boston, Massachusetts. And she spoke about lateral violence. And I had never heard the term before, did not know anything about it, but she spoke for an hour. And it really stunned me to hear all about what lateral violence is.
Hmm.
And the statistic at the time that she threw out was that I think it was as much as 60% of new to practice nurses leave their first job. Reporting all of the reasons reported for that is boils down to lateral violence in some way, shape, or form. And that just hit me so hard. At the time, we were facing one of the biggest nursing shortages. We were at a crisis level with that. And, I just thought about what a waste it is that all of these people are going to become trained as nurses, and employers are desperate for them. Patients are desperate for the care. And yet we are getting them out the door as soon as we get them in. What is going on, and what can we do to fix that, especially when we have identified the problem?
Yeah.
And when Dr. Griffin spoke about what she had done, the research that she had done in her facility, they took a group of new graduate nurses that they had just hired, and they spent a lot of time training and preparing them for what they would encounter. And they basically told these new nurses that, this is what lateral violence is all about. It's when new nurses enter the workforce, and some of the nurses who have been there a lot longer may act out aggressively. We may call it bullying, interpersonal conflict, or whatever. But they told these nurses, these things are going to happen. Expect it, prepare for it. But don't let yourself be a victim. When somebody does something to you that's inappropriate, you need to be strong enough and brave enough to address the behavior. And they literally gave them all the different behavioral manifestations that they could expect to see. They gave them scripted responses. And as an example, one of my favorite ones, one of the most common laterally violent behaviors that you'll get anywhere you go is like the nonverbal stuff, the rolling of eyes, the heavy sighs. And they taught these new nurses, if somebody rolls their eyes at you, don't just let them go. Stop them and say, hey, it really looks like there's something else you would like to say to me. And I just want to let you know, it's okay if you would like to talk with me more. Tell me what's really on your mind. So these nurses, they made them confrontational in a positive way. They trained them and they prepared them. They gave them the responses. And so these nurses went out armed with, tools for addressing inappropriate behavior. And what they found is that when they started responding to the lateral violence, it pretty much stopped. It was no longer safer for their peers to do it because it was being confronted, and they completely changed the culture by arming these new nurses with the tools to take that on. And the retention rate on those units went through the roof. So not only did they change the culture, they kept those new nurses. They didn't have that turnover problem anymore. So I read the article that was published about this, and I just went, whoa, this is great stuff. We need to get it out there. And I thought about it. I called Dr. Griffin and talked with her for a long while, spent more time reading and researching it, and I thought it would just be cool to kind of take all of that great research that she had done and turn it into a story and put it to characters and situations that people could relate to. So that's when the lateral violence story, Lions and Tigers and Nurses, was born of that whole experience.
And then someone can read this, and then they go and they can actually apply for accredited continuing education that
Yeah,
they
there
can
is a
use.
post-test at the end, and they can fill that out and send it in to Southern Regional Area Health Education Center in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and they would get contact hours of continuing nursing education credit for it if they pass the test. There are also book discussion questions at the end, so a lot of schools and workplaces will read the book as a unit or a group, and then they'll have book discussion time at the end where they'll get together and they'll talk about it and reflect on it as a team or a unit.
That's great. That's
Thanks.
great. We could keep talking about this for quite some time because I'm really just fascinated by the whole topic. But you have 3 novels. Is there a 4th one in the works?
Kind of, sort of. I am taking some time off from the series to work on another project, um, which I can't talk about a whole lot about that right now, but
That's
hopefully
okay.
that'll news will be forthcoming on that. But I would love to pick back up and write more in the nursing novella series in the near future. Yeah.
So, Amy, tell me a little bit. I'm sure that folks are always asking you for writer's tips. People always think maybe they got a book in them somewhere. What are some of the things you might offer as advice to a nurse or somebody else checking out the show that wants to write something about something they're passionate about?
Yeah, that is the most commonly the most commonly asked question. I get that more than anything else. People will come up to me and say, "I want to write too. Do you have advice or recommendations?" And in talking to people about what they want to write about, a lot of people don't know. They know they've got a story inside them. They want to write. But people will tell me, "I'm going to wait for the right time. I'm going to wait till the kids are gone to summer break, or I'm going to wait till I retire." And my biggest piece of advice is don't wait. If you want to write, go ahead and start doing it because there's never going to be a good time. As soon as you get free time, something will quickly happen in your life that will fill it up. So if you really want to write, start doing it now. You might not have to do it today, but make some time this week or this month. And whatever is most comfortable for you, grab a notebook or sit down at a keyboard or get a voice recorder and just start letting your story come out. And don't get hung up on the structure or the grammar and the punctuation. There are pros that you can hire to help you out with all of that.
Yep.
But just do it is the big, it's my big piece of advice is just get started. The difference between an aspiring writer and a writer is the writer moves from desire to action and makes the time to make that dream come true. The other thing that I tell people about it is there's no right or wrong way to tell a story. You can do all kinds of things. You can write a book, you can write a poem, you can write a song, you can blog. Some of my favorite storytellers are photojournalists, and they
Yeah.
tell their stories through photos and videos. And then the last little piece of advice I would offer is if you are going to do something like blog or publish a book where you're going to share your story publicly, I would encourage you to check with your organization's social media policies and just make sure that you're doing everything in line with what they expect of you as an employee and that you're representing them fairly, staying within your legal and ethical boundaries for HIPAA, confidentiality, all of
Right.
that. So that's really it. Just go for it. Just do it. If you've got a story inside you that is dying to be told, then let it out. Just start writing.
That's the same thing I tell people that want to start a podcast. I said, your first episode is going to be worse than your last episode, and so there's no good time to start. Just get the material together and start recording.
That's exactly
So
right. Go for it.
there's no best time to do it, as evidenced by the fact I record any time of day or night whenever it needs to get done. So.
Yeah.
Amy, thanks for coming on, and appreciate you taking the time to be on the show here and share your expertise as a writer, but also your incredible story and these wonderful novels that you've brought to the nursing arena to inspire people to stay in nursing and inspire people to become nurses.
Thanks for having me on the show, Jamie. I appreciate it.
And that's going to close out this week's episode of The Nursing Show. I want to thank all of you for checking out the program this week and urge you again to make sure you follow up on all of the information you got in this week's episode or any of the episodes by heading over to NursingShow.com. When you get over there, you can check out the show notes link at the top of the page. And when you get in there, you'll see listings for all of the episodes of The Nursing Show from the most recent one all the way back to the very first episode, if you have the desire to check that out. Get the full information there so you can understand how to apply what you hear on the show to your own nursing practice or studies. That's really important so you can take it further. If you want to get back in touch with me, I hope you do so. Go ahead and shoot me an email to nursingshow@gmail.com. I make sure I respond back to every email that comes in, and I want to hear from you. So you can send me your comments, your questions, your suggestions, or news links, and help support the Nursing Show community with your input and ideas. I really look forward to getting those things. You can also get the Nursing Show email newsletter if you want. Just check out the link in the little form on the right-hand side of the nursingshow.com site. When you fill out that form, you can actually get the show notes and links sent to you directly in email every single week, so you can check that out if you want. You can also connect with me on social media sites under the handle Podmedic. You can find me at twitter.com/Podmedic or facebook.com/Podmedic. So make sure you friend or follow me over on those sites. And just remember, you can also become a member of the Facebook fan community for The Nursing Show over at facebook.com/Nursing Show. Just click the like button right there at the top of the page, and I hope you'll join the conversation there as well. I post other nursing and healthcare articles, pictures, updates, and links there each week, and you can check all of that out over there. Well, that's it for me. I'm your host, Jamie Davis. I'll be back soon with more episodes from The Nursing Show, coming out here every Friday for you to wrap up your week. In the meantime, please remember to stay safe and stay tuned here to The Nursing Show. Take care.